Hi, and welcome everyone to a brand new program that we're launching. It's called A Leap Beyond. And my name is Laura Painter. I'm known as the Brain Whisperer. And this whole series is about how we can understand the brain, the mind, the function of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that kind of keep us in the same patterns or going down the same path, and just unlocking those, unloading them and letting them go, understanding like where that is something that's holding you back. So it'll be individual for each of us. I'm here in my studio in Winter Park, and I'm so grateful to be able to launch this program with you guys. So if anybody has any questions, you can just unmute yourselves and jump in where you can. And I look forward to all the questions. So we'll begin like with an energy exercise. We'll talk about the topic. We can do a Q&A, and then we'll finish with like a group healing or a session for everyone. So is there anyone who would like to jump on and introduce yourself or say hello?
Hi, Laura. I'm Janie Smith.
Hi, Laura. Hi, Janie. I'm Laura. You're Janie. See that where the mind goes? I'm reading your mind.
Exactly.
So it's kind of comical. We might as well just start there. And so glad to have you working on this project with me. I'm really grateful. I look forward to what we can create in the future. And it is all about the brain and how we process the information, how it's processed, how it actually works, and how we develop our own mind. Like we are the ones who are actually creating this based on our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, how we define something, like as we are pre-verbal, when we start to learn from everyone around us. And then that's how we carry on throughout our embodiment, is based on this information. So I guess we could jump in and get started. Well, a little bit about me. I actually have had a brain trauma or head injury, and it was left undiagnosed and really never ever addressed. And it wasn't until I was working with some programs with massage and body work that I became more interested in the brain. I work with autistic children, and I could understand and relate to a lot of what goes on with them. And I studied in the sensory integration piece of the craniosacral model. And so that is also something that's fabulous and fun for adults. So as we are actually in these patterns with our sensory or our motor cortex or however the brain is functioning, then we just build on that throughout our lives. So everything's basically installed in our limbic system from the moment of creation. So as we are in utero, we're picking up all of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions from our mom, from the family that we're around, from the schools that we go to, and everything that's going on with the mom is kind of like what's going on with us, because we don't differentiate ourselves from the mom. And so the limbic system is the part of the brain that controls most of the basic emotions and drives, such as pleasure, fear, anger, hunger, thirst, sleepiness, even sexual desire. It's like an informational data bank, and it's how you've been defining the information, the input, since the moment of the creation of this embodiment. And who you are today is based on everything that you have experienced from that moment. And again, we're one with mama, so everything's nonverbal. And then we perceive all of her thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And then after delivery, we're still pre-verbal, we're functioning from pre-verbal communication. So we're identifying their definitions to your limbic system. And so after speech is available, then we often go into the why stage due to the awareness of the energies that don't match the words that they're using. For example, if you're really excited about going somewhere or doing something fun, and they say, oh, don't be afraid, now you have to have it's almost like an artificial intelligence, and you install this so you can say, oh, every time I have this visceral response or this sensation, it must be fear. So we're misidentifying and misapplying what our visceral sensations are actually telling us. So we cut off parts of our knowing, our awareness, as we develop this limbic system. So this is where your mind can conform to their reality. So a lot of the points of view that we have are not even ours. They're based on like what mom and dad feel and believe, like who they vote for or where they live. So before we're 2 years old, we have an idea if we're going to be rich or poor. Our survival skills are there, and our basic understanding of finances and all of this. And it's actually quite fascinating to me that this is where the information is actually, this is our baseline of where we build the rest of our life. So unlocking this, unloading it, letting it go is allowing us to actually find more of ourselves, who you truly be, versus who you've been taught to be, or who you have to be, or who you should be, or who you must be. And so the central nervous system is directly or indirectly influences nearly every internal organ system, respiration, our digestion, circulation, reproduction, all of that. But then we use our mind to cut us off from that awareness. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So there's different.
It's kind of like the limbic system seems to be like the central piece where everything functions from in the brain. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, it's more of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions versus like, because our cranial nerves are actually going to send the communication to the end organ or to the muscle or to that part of the body. But the limbic system is more of how we decide things show up.
Ah, okay. Oh, so that's kind of like your manifestation part of your brain.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. Yeah, so like if we have this idea that we're going to be rich, like when we're little, or if we're going to be poor, either way. So if you decide you're going to be rich, no matter what happens, you're the guy that has the Midas touch. He always is lucky in his deals. He always makes great real estate investments. These are the kind of stories that you hear about from people who have decided, I'm going to be rich, for example.
They're back when they were little.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And even if there's abuse involved, and we can talk about these types of conversations at a deeper level, but like when there's abuse involved or neglect, which is also a form of abuse, or there's a lot of violent yelling or something in our awareness, then it's almost like we tune into that. And then those are the kinds of people or the kind of situations that we show in we show up in as like a repetitive wheel, same situation. The names and the places have changed to protect the innocent, but it's the same scenario. So yeah. And so there's just so much information here, and you can see I'm very excited about all of this information and how it's helped shift and change my life and who I'm becoming, and finally getting to be who I am, who I came here to be, versus like obligations and expectations from other people. Yeah. And then like how we separate from each other, how we have projections and wherever we reject something, and that's all based on the information stored in the limbic system. Yeah. So there's a lot of information out there. And I mean, I've studied almost everything, right? And so a lot of that is just simply repatterning, which has helped. It's been a huge contribution, whether it's meditation or there's different forms of tapping, meridian work, chakra work, and that's reorganizing structures. Because everything's a molecule and everything has a frequency to it. So if you shift and change that, I mean, Einstein proved that, when you bring your awareness to a cell or a molecule or an atom, you can change it. So like if we think, oh, I'm sick, well, the body goes, okay, cool. And it does that. And it's primarily to keep you from thinking that you're wrong. It's like validating your reality because it thinks that's what you are wanting or you desire to create. So for example, in Kundalini yoga, the style of yoga that has helped regenerate my life, and like if you have an injury and you can't quite reach the toe, you just actualize that you're reaching the toe, and the mind does not know the difference if you are remembering it, watching it on TV, or it's actually happening. So you have the similar visceral response to that thought, feeling, or emotion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And then eventually you're able to reach the toe because the mind didn't know that it couldn't this whole time. And then when we're able to, let that piece go that's holding us back, whatever that limitation may be, it could be stuck in a meridian or a bone or, a chakra, right? Or within the limbic system or different parts and pieces of the brain. And the cellular memory at the site of trauma, all of these things have an impact on the body's information and how it communicates to you.
So is that why, like, you see some of those people that are really super flexible and they can, bend their back clear over the top of their head? Is that because, like, their brain doesn't know they can't do that?
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah. Well, yeah, but if they're like, oh, I've always been flexible. I'm super flexible. Or I have really long hair. I have really strong, healthy hair. Or people go, oh, my hair is thinning and I can't get my hair to grow. Well, the hair won't grow. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's almost like it's because everything's coming from the consciousness. And it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it the consciousness or the nervous system? I'm still trying to find out that scientific thing. But it's like once the sperm meets the ova, then there's a consciousness there. I mean, there's consciousness before that. It's a separate consciousness. Like the masculine energy has a consciousness and the feminine energy has a consciousness. And then when it's created, that's you, right?
Yeah.
And so that from that moment, because you can go in there and heal like through Qigong and different modalities the moment before creation. And it doesn't always mean the universe. It could be this embodiment.
Okay.
Yeah. So once we have that spark, that awareness or whatever that life force energy is, there's no stopping us until, we're in that terrible two stage, as they call it, right? Terrible two. Why? Because now we're starting to learn that they're not telling us the truth, right? Or that they have a misidentified conception of what an emotion might be. Because if your mom's afraid, you may be afraid. If they don't like to swim, maybe you don't like to swim, kind of thing. So then once we start going, hey, wait a minute, the words don't match what they're actually doing or saying, then we go, this doesn't make any sense. What do you mean I can't walk through walls? But they're telling us, no, stop, get down, don't do that. And it's like, so we start going, oh, I better not do that. Oh, I better not do that. And we make ourselves like smaller and smaller, or we cut off parts and pieces of ourselves. And we start to fold, staple, and mutilate and transform into what we think their idea of who we are is supposed to be. And that's with each individual. So it's like that with your mother, that with your father, your grandparents, your brothers and sisters. So like when we show up at Thanksgiving dinner, everybody knows who is supposed to do what, who's going to bring the pie, who will be late for dinner, you know? And so it's kind of like we have these refined judgments of how we're supposed to show up and how we're supposed to communicate based on the information that we've collected each time we interact with them. Yeah. I hope that answered your question. I kind of go around and back around and up and down.
Yeah, it does. I can see, like I can see the whole picture of, you know, even with myself or with my children, where they're trying to fit in with mom and dad, and then there's also grandparents and siblings, and yeah, that can create a lot of confusion for a child if everybody's not in harmony. For
Yeah.
what?
Or like when you're in school, you have to act this way. If when you're in church, you have to act this way. When you're at this event, when people are here, you have to do. And it's like, especially if you're who you are in your environment, and then someone comes over to visit, and then you can't be that energy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's like we start to hide parts and pieces of ourselves. Now, not only are we forgetting who we are, now we're hiding it from ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because we can't let them know that. Oh, that's a family secret. Oh, that's private. Oh, we don't talk about that, you know, and that's huge with our bodies too.
Yeah.
Like we go head, shoulders, knees, and toes, and we don't talk about anything between the shoulders and the knees.
Yeah.
Right. So now that's a forbidden thing. That's wrong. And when we come into this embodiment, we're like all about like infinite. Like we are a spark, a joy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we start to get more and more small, like smaller and smaller and smaller, and more dense and contracted, and or whatever that looks like for people, because we're going to show up different. I think there's a Winnie the Pooh, Christopher Robin.
Mm-hmm.
So Christopher Robin, you know, the characters are all set up like a mindset, if you will. I'm a Tigger, I get it, and I'm okay with that today. But it's like we have to decide how we're going to handle the stuff that shows up in our lives, right? So some people are like a Pooh Bear. Oh, no worries, no bother, right? Or oh bother, oh gee, you know, oh oops again. Or a Tigger like, hey, hello, 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 hey. Or an Eeyore, right? So we can also choose something like that, and that's how we handle everything throughout our reality. So yeah, so then we actually have like a sensory nervous system. So this is like we, you know, they say we have 5 senses, which there's multiple sensory sensations. So I mean, we can feel temperature and all these things, right? So we feel things in our bones, we feel things in our muscles or our joints. And everything is linked to the central nervous system, which is where the belly button is, right? The umbilicus that was connected to our mom. So if something's still happening to our mother, we can also feel that or perceive it. And we can actually develop similar conditions that they may have, or like I was talking about, fears. And so everything is kind of like we get the sensory receptors kind of pick up those stimulus as like pressure or sound waves. We call it pain and disease in our bodies. But a lot of it is just simply an electromagnetic chemical signal that's firing, and it's actually only our awareness. So if we get that, that we are way more potent and powerful than we think we are, then what can shift and change for us is like, wow, if I can create this disease, I can uncreate it. It's kind of like when people live together for a long time, or they've been in a relationship for a long time, they begin to kind of look like each other. And it's like their faces change, or their body style or shapes can change. And, you know, that's based on their consciousness reorganizing the energy. And it shows up in a molecular structure So we can identify each other as human or the dog or a tree. And so everything has an intelligence.
I like that piece where you said, you know, it's like we know that we can create things, but then we forget that we can uncreate them as well, such as diseases or health issues. It seems like there are so many, well, and it's been programmed that like if you have a disease, you have a disease, and it's either curable or uncurable. And that whole piece of it's up to you whether you keep it or let it go gets totally ignored or not even talked about. It's like head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Huh,
And
that's interesting. I never thought about it like that.
yay!
Yeah.
So don't believe anything I said. No.
Okay.
Don't buy into what I say. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so a lot of this, you know, is it's so simple that we think it can't even exist, right? um, and I learned a lot of this the hard way, you know, by really, you know, even though I'm a Tigger, I wasn't always laughing, right? um, yeah. So, but what I found out about that was because I would cry. I would cry about everything. It didn't matter if it was my birthday, you know, or you know something fun. I always wound up crying. And what I found out through my research, right, is that I was crying for other people. So like if somebody was having like a bad day or something, I was the one. It was like I would receive the information telepathically, and then I would be the one to distribute the communication, like a transceiver, right? They would think it, I say it, or be it. And I've taken on a lot of people's pains and pathways or like illnesses, and you know a lot of things could show up in my body, and I just now I recognize that it's probably not mine, and that it's uh, simply that I'm aware. I just haven't really been trained or studied how to like take that information as a psychic channel, because I never really thought I was psychic, but and I never claimed to be psychic, but it's like wow, like when you're meditating and you know everyone's goal is to quiet the mind. Well, once you slow down the mind, because it's really designed to calculate and cipher, and we want it to be alert at all times. So when we quiet our mind, then all of these thoughts come in like, oh, don't forget the dog food. Oh, I don't have dogs, right? It's like, whose thought is that? Oh, did I leave the coffee pot on? Oh, I don't drink coffee. So it's like we are actually picking up on other people's thoughts as we're quieting our minds. So sometimes when people are meditating, they're like, my mind speeds up, but I have all of these thoughts come in. So how we can address that or play with that energy is like, wow, okay, I don't have a dog, man. Look how aware I am that I'm thinking this thought from someone else. That could be a little scary for us. But yeah, so we just have to realize that it's not actually ours. So I was hoping that we could go ahead and, I mean, if you have more questions about this, I'm glad to chat about it. But I'd like to pull some energy and move that around a little bit. So I invite you, if you'd like to close your eyes, if you can, but you don't have to. You can totally just be present wherever you're at. And let's just take a few minutes to explore our body. Actually, the space in between the molecules, let's like go into where that vibrant life force energy is. And as that is amplifying, it can actually reorganize and move the molecules around to where they're more buoyant, more like effervescent. And then just expand out your awareness. We'll stay in the body, of course. You know, we want to be in the body and just expand out energetically. And you can expand out from the front and the back, from the left and the right, up and down, all the way around. Let's just expand out to the size of the room you're in, deep down into the ground. Expand out to the size of the house or building you're in. If you're inside, as big as your city or country. Now let's expand out to the size of the Atlantic. I know this may be vast for a lot of you folks, but let's just go ahead and expand out. And you can just lower any judgments or walls or barriers, any conclusions, any judgments of yourself. And then expand out even farther. Let's just fill up all of the water, the earth, and the sky with your essence, connecting with Mother Earth. And it's a very busy place, right? So we have cars, we have highways, we have trains, we have airplanes, we have ships and boats, houses and buildings, freeways and bridges. It's all a part of who we are. We can even be aware of the technology, the electricity, all of the utilities that are like we use in our lives, because all of that's flowing and moving and channeling and changing. Every moment is expansion. And every thought creates expansion. We don't even have to speak the word. We can just think the thought, and it's a frequency. So if you'd like to go out even farther, we can go out to the moon, like 500 million miles or however far away the moon is, right? And when we're this size, when we're this vast, like in this peaceful space, this is who we truly are. We're not really in these small little containers that we're perceiving that we are. We're actually, our energy is much more vibrant and alive than just these little containers that we're in. And if any barriers pop up, just lower them back down, push them down if you have to, just push them down and expand out even farther. And go beyond your awareness here. Just go beyond whatever you're perceiving and receive that vibrant energy of all that is in that space. Activating like your awareness, your true knowing, your infinite beingness. And being in that space of the now, that isness of the now. And as you're lowering these barriers or judgments of yourself, that's really probably a artificial intelligence that you may have installed anyway about who you think you are or who you think you are not, right? Now you're welcome to stay out in this vast energy. And as an exercise, we can just kind of not shrink down, but like bring that energy back into our form, our molecular structure, and allow that to vibrate and wake up and stimulate the cells of the bones, of your muscles, of your skin, of the toes. I like every molecule in your body being stimulated with this vast energy, and just let it flow through you. So if it's coming from the front, let it flow through the back. And this will be a healing energy that will stimulate, wake up, and restore your structure. So as it's coming back in through the left and the right and up and down, just let it flow through the opposite side. Let everything be moving and flowing through your energetic structure, waking up the molecules. And this is really simple, an exercise that you can do almost anywhere while you're waiting for your airplane, you're at a traffic light. If you close your eyes, someone behind you will let you know when it's time to go, right? So just play and have fun with this. And now expand back out. Allow that energy to be flowing in and through your structure, and continue to generate more energy as you expand out. So simultaneously receiving the energy in a cyclical motion of receiving the energy and expanding the energy. Thank you. Great. So if you haven't done so, you can open your eyes and kind of wiggle your fingers and toes just to wake up the brain, wake up the mind. And you can stay expanded out. So this is just a small sample of how you can energetically pull energy through you, and you can send energy from you, and allowing that to be like a alternating current or a cyclical gifting, receiving from the universe, from source energy, from how we the super consciousness or the wow, what are some other words? That's like the divine. Like where is that energy coming from? Where is that spark? Inside of each of us, right? So we can like be that powerful, potent energy and not be in these small little capsules of limitations. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed that exercise. And let's see what else I wanted to share with you guys. Maybe everyone is sleeping.
I was noticing how when you were like create the flow as a cyclical simultaneous motion of gifting and receiving. It was kind of like what I saw. It's kind of like when your heart beats, like it one side expands and the other contracts, and it creates like that pumping motion, sort of like it comes in one side and it goes out the other, right? So it creates a continuous flow of blood flow in your body. So I was that's kind of what I saw with the energy too. It was like it was coming in and going out like simultaneously like that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, that's a great example. I've had people say it's kind of like ocean waves where the water comes up and then it comes back. Um, like, so whatever it is that sparks and stimulates you and it's like, if you can put something tangible to that, awesome, right? Um, and so like, and that's something like you could actually literally go into the heart, the energy of the heart, and be with that presence of the heartbeat when it's pumping the blood, sending out the blood, pumping the blood, receiving the blood. And you can do that with any organ of your body, like, okay, the food comes in the stomach, it leaves the stomach. And be present and aware with the molecules. It's really quite simple. And I'm surprised that there's not more information out there about this.
Well, and it brought up a question. It was like, okay, so if you know that something is not quite right in your body, you're not quite sure what it is, but when you're sending that information back out into the ethers or the universe, wherever you're sending it to, can you send out that dysfunctional energy and then receive intentionally, like when you're receiving the healing energy? Is that what can create change in your body? Like when you're consciously sending away the stuff that's not yours, that's creating disease in your body?
Absolutely. Yes, because, well, yes, absolutely. This is like, it's more of like an actualization, like you know that you know that you know. It's like when you try to stand up, you're not actually standing up, right?
Yeah.
So when you actualize standing up, then you're actually standing up, right?
Yeah.
And so there's all kinds of different modalities and lore and tradition and protocols on how to like shift and change and organize and do this and wave your hands 3 times, all of these different things, which again are repatterning the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They may not be restoring the brain at the capacity that we're speaking about today. So if each one of the brain parts has its own function, so like the amygdalas, for example, I always make little fists when I talk about them, don't I? Okay, so this is like where our anger, rage, fury, and hate is, right?
Uh-huh.
And if they're hard like little cherry pits like mine were, listen, girl, don't ever want to mess up with my amygdalas. I'm just saying. Okay. And so, but when we can communicate with the amygdalas that are hard like little cherry pits, and then we can go, hey, can you soften up like little raspberries? And they go, sure, no problem. No more anger, rage, fury, hate. Because I'm actually addressing the part of my body that's producing the cortisol and the adrenaline and all the stuff that creates that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, it's, again, like if you're doing like mudras and mantras, like mudras actually are creating a neurological communication to the opposite side of the brain. So if I'm holding a mudra in my right hand, it's affecting my left brain. So again, that could be repatterning, but it's shifting your consciousness because it's actually working with the neural nets of the mind, which are ones we installed, by the way. So if we have a trauma and then we remember the trauma and then we tell somebody about the trauma and then we have to talk about the trauma and then we relive the trauma and then it shows up in another situation. And again, so it's like this larger and larger and larger channel. So it's really like easy to identify with. Like Alzheimer's, that's why they can remember so much of the stuff in the past, because they have such a large neural communication directly to that instance. And the most recent memories are on our dendrites. And that's the end of the nerve that branches out, right? So we get upset, these curl up so we can fight, flight, freeze. Have you ever been in an argument where you're like, man, why didn't I say that? Or how come I didn't say that? Because those were tangible on the end of the dendrites, but we remember the large channel of that communication. No, I fight here. No, I run here. So that's fascinating because and it helps us understand working with Alzheimer's patients. So like if somebody who has Alzheimer's and they're constantly talking about something that happened in 1940, Well, guess what? We can work them through that and help them heal that thought, feeling, or emotion, or that trauma or abuse pattern. It's so simple. Like, for me, it's like so simple.
That's really cool, actually.
Thank you. So I feel like I almost invented it, because I'm like, no one really told me that, but I'm like, hey, well, let's, because Reiki and Qigong, I mean, there's so many modalities that you can go back in time and kind of like cellular memory, different tools and processes where you can go in and work with, because time doesn't exist, right? If time and matter are only a construct of our mind, because we've been taught hours, minutes, months, and days and years, right? So if we didn't know that part of it, it would only be right now. We would be more like the animal kingdom and being in the moment. And instead we go, oh, no, I can't do that because I learned this when I was 12. Oh, I learned this when I was 18. Oh, I learned this in my 20s. I learned this in my 40s. So, and then we go into that reference point and base everything from that versus our knowing. So like if I've constructed an artificial intelligence to an autoresponder, right? Like with the emails, right? So see how far away it is from me? So it's like as soon as that sensory input comes in through the neural net, it's going to go pop top to that. It doesn't even get to like me, like I'm over here, but it's communicating over here. So it's like destructing these or removing them or acknowledging them so they can kind of go away and not be stimulated every time you smell that smell or hear that song or watch the movie. Like people are like, oh, I don't watch that. I don't watch that. Mm-hmm. That might be something they probably should watch, so they can actually kind of clear something, because there's maybe something hidden there or so far away from them, they don't even think it's theirs.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of metaphysical or mystery teachings and trainings that have taught us, oh, X means Y, all this equals this, and this is how it has to be done. And when we start to realize, like, sure, that works. I mean, it's able to restore a lot of function, or the herbs work in a certain way. Absolutely, right? Because everything's a chemical component and everything's a molecular structure, even energy, right? Just because you and I can't see it doesn't mean it's not there, right? So then we can just take these things and go and just realize, hey, we're not as messed up as we think we are. We're basing it on somebody else's fears, because usually we're taught through like our parents' fears or their anger, rage, fury, and hate. Their amygdalas are like this, right? Right? Right?
Yeah.
And if one little bone is out of position in that cranial structure, it can be compressing an artery, a vein, or a nerve. So because everything tracks kind of in threes through the body. So everywhere there's an artery, there's a vein and a nerve traveling through there. The lymphatic system as well, they're very closely associated. So one or all three of those can be compressed from the temporal bone. So if it's moving, right, and we wear glasses and now these bones don't move, guess what? That kind of mirrors our hips. And so people kind of have low back problems. And, it's like our body is so magnificent in how it was structured. It's like like Big Ben, right? And so if all of his gears and parts and pieces are going in the right speed, the right time, the right position, then it's accurate time. If it goes too slow, they say we're depressed. And if our clock is going too fast, they say we're hyper, right? So a lot of Tiggers are, classified as hyper, right? Well, speed up, can you guys speed up some? But so I'm at a place now where I'm like going, oh, okay, and acknowledging where, and there was probably a reason they chose to be a Tigger, or they chose to be Eeyore, and we don't have to know what that piece is. But giving them comfort and knowing that there's something else possible is what the goal of this whole LEAP program is, and getting this information out there in a fun way, with conversation with what people actually desire to talk about and what we can shift and change. So yay.
Yay. That's very cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
So is there anything else coming up? Or is there anything you'd like to talk about or any questions?
Well, speaking of the Tigger thing, I was thinking about when you were talking earlier about like when you're programmed with stuff from your parents when you're like 2, and then you're picking up on all of this stuff from your parents and you're trying to be like everyone all at the same time, and then trying to figure out who you're supposed to be in this situation and who you can't be. And the thought popped into my head. It was like, wow, no wonder there's so much of these children these days being diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, and OCD, and because it seems really a confusing environment to raise amazing little beings in.
Yeah. And they've been saying that since 1849, but no, yeah.
Yeah, but like, no wonder.
Well, and part of that is actually an intelligence and a capacity that we've made it wrongness about. So, like, because if somebody was only able to fire on one neuron at a time, which, oh my gosh, no, let's don't ever wish that on anyone. But it's like, so like if they're only like, if they have to focus on one thing, they can only do one thing. Oh my gosh, I would totally not be able to do that. I have like 12 tabs open on my computer. I go, oh, shiny, sparkly thing, right? But it's like, because I can actually do more than one thing at a time, because I'm ADD, OCD, autistic, PTSD, a little bit Asperger's, right? And I'm okay with that today. It's like, golly, they totally would have medicated me as a child. Just saying.
Yeah.
Right? Because, and what I'm learning about being bullied and things like that, it's like, if somebody's being bullied, it's likely that they're so powerful and they're really potent and they're like these vibrant beings, and it almost frightens people.
Yeah.
And so they try to make them wrong because they're afraid based on their limbic system. Like if they're being abused at home and then they see somebody being happy and they're not allowed to be happy, and then they see somebody being happy and they're like, why are they so happy? They must be on something. Or like if you're sad, they come over and comfort you. It's like, for me, that's like the total opposite. It's like, please don't mess with me when I'm sad. Like, don't touch me. I will kill you with my amygdalas, right? Right?
Yeah.
So, but when I'm happy, it's like going, hey, can I come out and play? It's like we kind of lose that. Like when I call it the sandbox syndrome. It's like, like we go to the sandbox and we go, hi, I'm Lori, can we go play? And they're like, come on, and you start playing. But then we learn, oh, we're not supposed to talk to them. Oh, you don't go over and ask them that. Oh, you can't do that. It's not polite to do this. And so we lose parts of us in that. And then we think I got to be good. I can't ask a question. Oh, I don't want to be wrong, because we're just made wrong constantly. So with these little kids that are, a lot of that is they're picking it up because we're thinking about it so much. So the collective consciousness is that the autism rate is going up, right? So the more that we think that, the more we say it, guess what? It's just like a neural net channel. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And guess what? All the little babies are picking up on this. They're like, gosh, they want us to have autism. They are all thinking about autism. Let's get autism. What is autism? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so like we're going, 4 out of 5 doctors say blah blah, go ask your doctor. And then everybody has dry itchy eyes. Right?
Yeah.
And my experience with that, I'm gonna get on my soapbox, my apple box here. I have a client who had itchy eyes, and then they gave her water, or these eye drops for her eyes, and now she just blinks all the time, and she can't even hold her eyelids open, and they want to do Botox on her. And when I was able to work with her on the table, there's a little teeny tiny bone right here by our nose and the eye orbit that's called the lacrimal bone. And that being out of position, guess what? Will make your eyes feel itchy, and the bone is not in the right place. So guess what? The nerves attached to the bone are having to send a signal, and then the muscles like stretched, and it's not happy, and it's like, oh, now your eye is droopy. So if we just reposition that bone and put it in the right place, no more headaches, no more itchy eyes, and it seems so simple that people they haven't caught up to the idea of like how that can shift for them. So like a child with autism, since I can totally relate, right? They come in here and it's like fun for them. They come in and hug me. They call me, "Oh, Laura," and they hug me, and their moms are like, "How did you?" They never do that.
Mm-hmm.
I have children who come up to me in the store and they go, "Who are you? What do you do?" And then like asking me in front of the mom, and so I'm like, "Oh," and then I give out the card, whatever that is. But it's almost like I get along with the kids so much, the kid can identify with me so easily. Now their parents think that there's something wrong with me
Yeah.
because, because
That's
why
how
would my child like you? My child doesn't like anybody. And then the kids are in there talking about like crystal planets, and they're talking about all these amazing things on the table. And I'm like, I have so much to learn from these little ones.
Uh-huh.
So that, and then I can work on an adult who has these same symptoms that either they've been medicated or not, but they've been made wrong, all these years for being ADD or you're impatient or whatever that is. Now they lay on the table like this, like stiff and like, oh, I better not move. I don't want to mess anything up. And, like all of these rules and regulations, and it just locks in our bodies and makes us so solid and heavy and dense. And,
Yeah.
and then we create disease so we can get out of here. We're like, okay, what's the fastest way out of this place,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's kind of sad.
Yes.
So what would it take for that to change? It's like really, what would it take for that to change? Like more, like if we can shift the consciousness into this, wait a minute, what do you mean? Less whatever, like the symptoms are on TV, because it's like, like when they're doing the advertising and they're going to go, oh, may cause blah, 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 blah. And then you almost don't hear it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, but my blood pressure's fine. Or,
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, but you're bleeding. Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
places we don't want to do that, and it's like, well, at least it's there and not in the brain, because a lot of medications, I was on a medication for my blood pressure after an open heart bypass.
Mm-hmm.
They give you a lot of medication for that, I'm just saying. But the medication was making me feel like I was having a stroke, and I had to find an alternative for that, because it didn't make sense to me that, oh, my blood pressure is fine, but I'm going to have a stroke. That
Yeah.
it didn't compute, and maybe it's because I'm a Tigger, or or my amygdalas were like this,
Yeah.
like, what do you mean this is my only choices? No, there's got to be another choice. But it's really fun to be able to explore the body and be present with your body and be aware of the body. And I'm just really grateful to be able to, offer this type of information on this platform. And I'm looking forward to more conversations and more projects and learning more, because every day, I mean, if I'm not working on someone, I'm studying, this, and doing research.
Mm-hmm.
And then research is just something that somebody else has already established.
Mm-hmm.
And then I take my part is taking my knowing and my awareness and adapting that to like my life, my living, my work, my clients.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually making it worth living.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, like with everything changing, just like, okay, well, if you're running a business or you're running your household or you have the kids, I mean, we all have stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to like process it,
Yeah.
like smoothly. What was it? We were our Intel processors.
Yes.
If we get those like be nice and fluid and flowy, it's not like we're pretending something didn't happen or ignoring something happened. That's what's causing our problems now, is we're ignoring. Nope, not in my awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to the AI.
Yep. Yeah.
And so if we're like going, okay, we can deconstruct these limitations that we've installed as protection, and that way we can have that smoother rhythm and everything would be in homeostasis, less horn honking and rush hour traffic, right?
Yes.
Like you can meditate all day long and get out in traffic and go honk honk.
Yeah.
That's me. Because I can meditate all day long, but if my amygdalas are like this, I kill you, right?
Uh-huh. Exactly. Yeah.
So great. So our next call is like next Friday. And we're just going to continue on with this series. This one is primarily about self-care. So it's all going to be about how you can nurture and care for who you are and commune with your being, your body, your awareness. We're going to be talking about how food plays an impact with that, our surroundings, people around us, right?
Yeah.
Even the city we live in has an impact and a part to play. The country we're from, the country we were born in, our first languages, or if you speak multiple languages, there's a lot happening there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's just all about an exploration of, taking this big leap into something beyond what you know as your reality.
Very cool. I'm excited for the next. Did you say there was 4 calls altogether?
Yeah,
So this is
there's 3 more.
Okay.
In this particular series, again, it's based on self-care, and I totally wanted to start with like the beginnings of our limbic system, because everything's based on the brain whispering that I do in my practice and how I heal and work with myself. And it's, I've had multiple people, so many people are asking me, can you show me how you're doing this? Can you show me what you're doing? And the exercise that we did today was something very simple that you can start with and just start letting that energy move and be flowy, and know that a lot of the information that you've been taught, you've bought it, and you're teaching it to everybody else may not even be accurate for who you are. You're the only one that's going to know. So like if it's really light for you, it's probably true. And if it's something that's really heavy and dense and you're resisting, there's probably something that could be cleared or processed or worked through or changed. Yeah.
Very cool.
Fabulous.
Awesome. I'm excited.
So yeah, just share this with your friends, let everybody know what's happening, and you can always reach me at laurapainter.net. My email is laurathebrainwhisperer@gmail.com, and on Facebook, The Brain Whisperer. And I look forward to seeing you guys very soon. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonder-filled day.
Thank you.
Thank you.